You are listening to ChatHLF, a special podcast series from Herbalife featuring conversations that move us forward in health, nutrition, fitness, leadership, and so much more.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Johnson, and we are here with Chat Herbalife. Dr. Kent Bradley is the Chief Health and Nutrition Officer for Herbalife. Kent is the chairman of our Nutrition Advisory Board and leading our notable experts, and he's also responsible for all nutrition and product training. Very important. Dr. Bradley is a retired Army colonel. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. He holds a master's degree in public health from the University of Minnesota, an executive MBA from the University of Denver, and a medical degree from the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. He is board certified in public health and preventative medicine and holds a certificate in corporate governance from INSEAD. An avid enthusiast for staying active through a mix of team sports and outdoors activities, Dr. Bradley's favorite products include Herbalife 24 Rebuild Strength. You and I share that. And Herbalife Line, we share that too. I'm sure I'm not complete on your resume here. It's super impressive. It is a great fortune for us to have you, and even a better fortune to have you today. Welcome, Dr. Kent Bradley.
Well, thank you, Michael, and the honor is all mine. I've been blessed to be a part of the company for 5 years now. I really am a product of my experiences, like we all are. One of the things I would share to get to know me is maybe a quote and also a little insight about my past life prior to coming to Herbalife. The quote is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that resonated with me at an early age because I care deeply about the well-being of individuals. And the insight is that when I was growing up as a child, I moved 8 or 9 times. In fact, in high school, I lived in 3 different places for rent and control. We had to move to another location. Then in my military career, I've deployed many times in foreign countries, and I've lived in many different locations, had jobs. And I realized that place really didn't matter. We always can make something of the place we're in. What mattered was the purpose and the people. And I'm in this place right now because of the purpose and the people.
I think your background is fascinating. You grew up incredibly humble roots. Tell us about your mom a little bit. I think that was one of the more fascinating parts of your life.
You know, you start off with a topic that'll bring tears to my eyes already. My mom was such a rock for me, an example. I've got so many sayings that she spoke into my life. But yeah, she and her, my father, they got divorced. We moved to California, where I ended up going to high school.
To Monterey.
And during that time period, we moved back there because she was previously, many years prior, was a seamstress. Of course, you know what I got every year for Christmas was a tie. She would take the material and make it at home.
We're all formed by our experiences. And the reason I wanted you to talk about your mom is because I think your humble background and your humble beginnings resonate very well with our distributors. And so many distributors who sign up for Herbalife to try to put the business in their lives, they're from very humble backgrounds. We have immigrants, we have people who are, have tried side hustles, different jobs, gig economy, all sorts of things. But we also have people who are passionate about product, who come into the company. And you kind of embody both.
I learned from my time in the military how impactful we could be, and the delight of where I am right now in my trajectory is that I see public health in action every day. I go out and meet with distributors, individuals that are in the communities as change agents, as some have said, and I would agree, who are impacting lives. It's a tremendous opportunity.
A quick story, and you and I both share a mutual friend, Dr. Richard Carmona, who's on our board of directors, 17th Surgeon General of the United States, a man who public health was his repertoire and still is today. And when we were talking to Dr. Carmona about joining the board, his first comment to me when he got in the car with me, I was going to show him Herbalife. I was going to show him our science center, our product development team. I was going to have him meet executives. Most importantly, get him into the field. And we decided to take him to 3 different nutrition clubs here in Los Angeles. And he said something to me when he got in the car. He said, look, I really don't have time for another board. I am doing this because a friend of mine asked me to do it. It was a rejection before there was an offer. And so I said, well, let's just spend the day together and see how it goes. It'd be good for you as the Surgeon General to see what we do. So we took him to the Science Center. He was aptly impressed, appropriately. Product development, with manufacturing. He got to see all the tenets of the product side of our company. And then we took him out to see the business side of the company. And we took him to a nutrition club in Inglewood. And he went into that club. And he is a light Spanish speaker. He's not, it's not his native tongue. He grew up in the U.S. And in New York. But the distributors there took to him immediately, and he took to them. He saw what was going on. And when we walked out of there, and I could give you the longer story about what took place in there, and he engaged with everyone. It was pretty incredible. He's a big personality. And he came out and he turned to me and he grabbed me on both arms. And it was a little startling. I don't know this man that well. And he said, do you know what you have here? You have a distributed platform. And I looked at him and I said, this is a very powerful tool. We do wellness evaluations in here. We set our community around this. But we do have something wonderful here. We know that. We haven't figured out at that time, this was years ago, exactly how to, double it, triple it, get it out into the marketplace. This is distributors who come with their great ideas. Where do you see your role in this? Because you've got very interesting, a super interesting background, number one. But in helping our distributors succeed, where do you see your role? Dr. Carmona joined the board, and the rest is history with him. He loves the company. He's passionate about it. He speaks to our distributors. He speaks from his heart and his brain. Where do you see your role in that?
I too am a light Spanish speaker, really light, but I did go to countries in Central and South America, and there was a program that we supported called Donde No Hay Doctor, which means where there is no doctor. And that doesn't mean these are places where there are no physicians present. The greater concept was, in our lives, 99% of it is outside, hopefully outside of a medical exam. It's lived in our homes, in our communities, in our day-to-day interactions. And we respond to people like us in that community. And so like him, I went to a nutrition club before I joined Herbalife. Like him, I don't know if he did this or not, but I began taking the products as well. And I saw the potential of this wonderful opportunity called Herbalife. And my role, just like it was back then, 20 years ago when I was in remote villages and talking with folks, is the same. And that is to support individuals who are in military terminology, we call them the force multipliers. I would call them as impact multipliers, the impact for good. My role is to support them. And those are our independent distributor coaches that are found in communities around the globe who are dedicated to supporting individuals in their community, first create community, as well as help them achieve their best versions of themselves. And through tools, through training, through education, through structured programs that could come alongside what they're doing, but also to deeply listen, because it's an interesting thing.
So I want to get into behavioral change with you in a minute, but before we get there, I want to talk to you a little bit about product. And so I've got my Herbalife shake here. Okay, it's got a little bit of Herbalife 24 Rebuild Strength. It has a protein enhancement in it, and And I also am an Herbalife line user like you, but I take a lot of other products of ours, like we all do. But I just want to focus in on our shakes real quick, because there's a thing going on out there right now where people believe they can inject a drug into themselves for weight loss. And I want to talk about our healthy meal replacement, and its role with behavior change in helping people live a better life to get to the weight that they want to get it to. And it's a simple question, is why is this so good? Tell me, sell me Herbalife Formula One.
One of the key tenets that was the brilliance of Mark Hughes, which is founded in science, is we should shrink the change, make it simple. Starting your life with a healthy breakfast is a simple change.
Get back to your mother and my mother.
And so then replacing that which is in excess with something that is nutriently dense in the form of a Formula One shake. 9 grams coupled with our protein drink mix, 24 grams of protein. Many people are not getting adequate protein. We also know protein helps with satiety. It packs it with 21 vitamins and minerals, depending on the country, 20, 21. Has a good source of fiber, low GI, doesn't have a high spike in your gastric, the glucose response, if you will, the sugar response. And it's meant to be a healthy meal. So starting your day with a healthy meal, for so many people, they do not get a healthy meal. They have a lot of excess, and they're not getting the nutrients they need. So that, coupled with the science of the need for more and more fiber in our diet. So many times people will add fiber, our active fiber too. This already is packed with good fiber, but adding more fiber. We have a global nutrition philosophy where the Formula One is the centerpiece in the macros and the micros. But we also have a phyto construct, a phytonutrient, plant-based nutrient. So the plants provide us so many nutrients as well, and the teas bring that in. There's a little bit of phytonutrients in this as well. And then we add to it with our teas and our aloe. Those provide the phytonutrients. Then you have a completeness. You have a completeness with our macros, a right balance of that. Then you have it with our fiber, if you add fiber to it, and you have it with our polyphenols that are found in our phytonutrients in tea and aloe. So that probably wasn't the best sales pitch elevator job, but the fact remains that it is scientifically proven. People may not realize we actually did studies in multiple countries looking at
Herbalife
did using our product. Will this product demonstrate weight loss in a structured clinical trial? And in multiple trials in different countries, we've documented its effectiveness. Why? Because that simple change. So I'm a practitioner of health. I'm not just a scientist of health. I look what is happening in the real world. In the real world, change is difficult. And our understanding of simplifying, shrinking that change by having a healthy breakfast is the start of the change process. Then it gets added to by helping, as Dan and Chip Heath, they wrote a book called Switch, and they talk about the difficulty of change. And one of the key tenets is you shape the path. You make it clear the steps you need to take through a programmed approach. Through challenges, through the ways in which the distributor coach engages with the community to simplify and make the next steps easier.
So I'm going to interrupt you there, because change is part perception, right? And people have perceptions about things, whether they're going to change or they're going to go over here and do this. In the marketplace today, especially in the United States, we're hearing a lot about 3 different diabetes drugs that are now being repurposed for weight loss. We're not here to knock those drugs or anything, because drugs provide good things for a lot of people when they're purposefully used. What I'm reading and what I'm hearing and what I understand is that these drugs that are out there right now, they're they're expensive, number one. They're $1,000 a month for the medications. It's a weekly shot. Explain to me a little bit about those drugs and what they do and why they are gaining such a wide perception. You're reading about it globally that, this is the latest and the greatest. Help me understand that a little bit.
The beauty of the drug in its original formulation was that it helped diabetics manage their diabetes better, the type 2s. During that process, they recognized that they were also losing weight. And they found out and began to understand more about how did that occur. There are GLP-1 receptors. So the peptide is the GLP-1. There's receptors that help the stomach slow down its emptying, so people began to feel fuller.
Full.
And then there was also receptors in the brain that help people say, I don't need to eat anymore.
So let's stop there for a second. I got food poisoning one time from clams. Mm-hmm. I won't get near a clam. If it were the last food on earth, I'd probably starve to death because my experience was so horrible with food poisoning. I mean, it was 3 days of misery, and I won't get near it. One of the things I've heard about these drugs is that they are potentially turning people's mindset towards food into a negative. We don't want to get and step on anybody's toes here, but if I'm turning off my interest in food, that's the basic nutrition. Food's the first medicine that people live their lives by, whether it's an Herbalife shake or an apple. It is vital that we take nutrients in. It's vital that we feed our cellular growth in our bodies. It's vital. If we've got something that's turning us off, is this a common occurrence or is this just a small byproduct of this drug?
Well, I think we're going to find out more and more. Time will tell. I think there's a couple of key points to perhaps wrap around what you just said. First, what's critically important is, and what we believe at Herbalife is we're all about relationships with other human beings, but also our relationship with food and our understanding it. So if that relationship was one where we were consuming 3,000 or 4,000 calories of poor nutrition, high calories but poor nutrition, not meeting our nutrient needs. And by the way, in the U.S., the National Health Assessment Nutrition Examination Survey, which gets done, has documented the gaps in the American diet when it comes to many of these nutrients. So we know that we already have a lack of understanding and a relationship with food that is one where it's high calorie, low nutrients. When you trigger your brain to then not want to eat very much, or your stomach makes you feel nauseous, you're now getting less nutrients. So if you're getting only a portion of your nutrients at 3,000 calories, what portion of your nutrients are you getting at 1,000 calories? Far less if you're eating the same way. So one of the things I think is a concern is the health of individuals as they approach any of these medications and lose weight. So there is a definite requirement, a need for behavior change and education and awareness. The drug doesn't do the behavior change, nor does it give you the food you need.
The downside of using a drug for weight loss rather than using behavior change, good nutrition, the proper intake of calories on a daily basis, getting exercise, all those. The downside, if I am sticking a needle in my arm and putting a product in that's turning on something that says you're full when you're not full, and it's creating an override, if you will. It's not fixing the fundamental underlying issue, which is, Michael, you're eating too much, you're eating the wrong things, you're not getting the proper exercise, and you're gaining weight in a very unhealthy way. This seems to me to be almost the opposite of that you are once again, it's not that you're eating too much unhealthy. You're not eating enough. You may still be eating in an unhealthy manner. It's not telling you because you are losing weight. And so that probably triggers in your head, oh, I'm getting healthier because I'm losing weight. That's not always the case. To me, it's two categories of weight loss. One, less healthy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's already been well-documented concerns around significant muscle loss. In fact, one of the interesting studies with the Formula One meal replacement was that people on this program did not lose muscle mass, they lost the fat mass. So you can have a weight change, but that weight change, maybe you didn't lose 20 pounds, but you lost 15 pounds, but that's because you retained your muscle. If I'm losing weight, I don't want to lose my muscle. So what are you actually losing in the weight? Are you losing the fat, or are you using the fat and the muscle, an important part of our body, right? So that is a concern. But I do want to stress that there is and has always been ways in which individuals have addressed their health conditions, whether it's medication for weight loss, gastric bypass, something for their diabetes, something for their high blood pressure. We're not in that business. We're here to support them because they all need to eat and eat well. And they all have the ultimate objective of health and wellness. And that's where we shine. We shine in the health and wellness. We are creating a culture of connection. We have the social connections, so important, the social support, the infrastructure to support, the community building, as well as programs and products that help meet the nutrient gaps. So I think it's an opportunity for us to also say we are here to support you if you choose not to go the medical route for your weight loss journey to attain your health goal. But we are also here to support you if that is something that you choose to do, because you still need to eat. And we have a healthy breakfast. We have muscle-supporting products. We have supplements. But more importantly, we have, as important, not more important, as important, the community and the development of individuals. I've been there. I've seen. I know firsthand.
I want to talk to you today a little bit about behavioral change, fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Can you elaborate on that? And let's pull it in and talk about behavior change in those elements.
Yeah, that term wasn't coined by me, by the way. It was Carol Dweck, a phenomenal psychologist, researcher, who in her studies and ongoing studies recognized that one of the limiters of growth is our mindset, how we think about things. And individuals who have a fixed mindset, unfortunately, limit their potential. And those who have a growth mindset have unlimited potential. And one way to think about it is when we're talking to a child, we have this desire to say, oh, you're just natural at that. Mm-hmm. And you think that is a good thing. And we are naturally capable of certain things. But when you fail, it becomes, I'm not good at this. And that fixed mindset, I cannot do that because it's part of who I am. Takes you off the hook, allows you to then play the victim, takes away the agency or ownership, which is a critical part of Herbalife and personal development, where a growth mindset says, no, I can, in fact, with effort, with training, I can learn, I can develop, I have the ability to attain certain skills to grow.
So if you're an Herbalife distributor, and we're talking to a lot of distributors right now, it's a tough business. This isn't easy to do this. I mean, it's not, open up a nutrition club, go on social media, have somebody, invite you to have a one-on-one meeting with them, and all of a sudden the C's part and magic things happen. You've got to deal with, like we all deal with in life, disappointment, rejection, all those things. What are the ways you overcome those things in terms of, in your area of behavioral excellence and overcoming obstacles and no's and defeats, and what do you process there?
Yeah, one of the attributes that I saw front and center is a term we like to call resilience. Resilience, others would call it grit. Herbalife distributors who are successful have it in spades. There are a couple of key components to it. One is that growth mindset, and that is realizing that it's not because if you get a no, it's not because you have an issue. You look at, in fact, that there might be a situation. There's a certain thing going on, and so that no is just a no for now. So there's this understanding around the temporariness or the situation that allows an individual to go again and again. But the three components that I see that are so pivotal and is part of the culture of Herbalife and these leaders is one, gratitude. There is a sense of gratitude. Two, this amazing optimism that is present. And this is not like fake positivity. This is a deep-rooted sense that there is an amazing future and beyond compare.
Right, beyond compare.
So that optimism is embedded into Herbalife and the way training and events and just the communication. And with that is purpose. So when you have a purpose of helping others, of supporting communities, this intrinsic purpose that will get you up every morning, that is fueled by optimism, that recognizes this gratitude that we have an opportunity to make a difference. That allows us to take the no's in our lives or the difficulties and overcome. That's so important for all of our lives.
So I'm going to interrupt you there. And so some people say people don't change. You come out of the birth canal, and by 3 years old, your personality's developed, and you're the same person today that you were then. Or the old slogan, everything I need to know about life I learned in kindergarten. Address that, because I'm a person who's changed quite a bit. Ask the people around here, and I believe in change, that it happens. But I still to this day run into people who say, people don't change.
Yeah, well, personalities may be more difficult to change, but behavior changes all the time. It happens when you think about the actions or the behaviors people take. They are changing all the time. We look at trends, and that's a very simplistic. You behaved a certain way at the age of 3 that was different at the age of 5, at the age of 10. So your behavior is changing. So behavior change is not only commonplace, it's achievable. Now, we have habits which ingrain a behavior, which are a little bit more difficult. And in the coaching program that Herbalife has supported and has codified through a program we call Better Coaching, there's a recognition through a lot of good science of how that occurs. And that's through environmental triggers that we don't even think about that create a behavior, an action. And we recognize how we can modify the environment. I could never take my, supplements in the morning. I always forget. Well, a growth mindset is, there's a situation going on. Environmentally, maybe if I put my supplements right next to the tea or right in the morning, it's when I wanted to go running in the morning, I environmentally put my stuff out in the morning right in front of me. So then when I get up, okay, I'm going to go work out. And so there are cues, there are triggers that we can modify to help us change our behavior.
So it's interesting. You said personality change versus behavior change.
Right.
Go a little deeper there just for a second, because I'm an Herbalife distributor and I want to behave in a way that makes my business happen better. Do I have to have a personality change to do that? I mean, I'm a firm believer that the only two things we really control every day are attitude and our efforts. Mm-hmm. You know, those are the things that come in. Are those personality traits? Are those behavior traits? Or are they both?
You know, it's interesting. I was an executive coach supporting business leaders for a short stint of my career. I don't know if you knew that. And it was with the Daniels College.
You mentioned that.
The Daniels College.
I'll bring you in for some coaching.
And I did an analysis of personalities of a high functioning group of people. They were all over the place. So personality didn't predict it. It was their behaviors. What are some of the behaviors? You can learn the behavior of creating a checklist to help you accomplish certain tasks. You could learn the behavior of how you show up and what hat you put on today can focus your energy and how you show up differently. You may be an introvert, but that doesn't mean you aren't able to engage and smile and be energetic. You know, there's so many different things that once you are aware, you can focus on to then drive that behavior. We were talking about the importance of rapport and connection. One of the behaviors we have is what you're doing right now, just listening, leaning in. That is actually a behavior that facilitates a response in the other person. That is one of engagement. So once you've identified the action that's needed, all you do is you practice it.
So I've been in around Herbalife for over 20 years now, which boggles my mind. I'm trying not to focus on age anymore, just focus on curiosity and interest. When we first went down to Zacatecas, Mexico, to see the Varela's Nutrition Club, it was a community club. People celebrated birthdays, and they celebrated weight management, and they celebrated success, they celebrated achievements, they celebrated things in that club. The product was there as a standard, shake, tea, aloe, come in, get a breakfast, and people from all walks of life entered that club. And they entered it for the community. So take us forward, 15 years, I'm trying to think when we first went down there. And today, there's models now that are very disciplined and very focused on terms of the volume points that are in the shake itself, the speed in which, the efficiency in which they can make a shake, the sensibility about the margin and the volume that's taking place inside that club. Things that weren't evident at the time in Zacatecas. In Zacatecas, it was taking a can and turning it into an individual serving and supplying a community and a response mechanism around wellness evaluations, around weight management challenges, around all sorts of things. Super cool. And that club is still alive today and prospering today. The original nutrition club, which we probably should enshrine somewhere because it's, nutrition clubs are now somewhere near 40% of our business globally. But they've changed. They've changed dramatically. And one of the challenges that I believe we have is to get distributors to accept new changes and get people to stay curious and not judgmental, as Walt Whitman said, be curious, not judgmental. How do we do that? How does a distributor do that? And what do they have to put in their head every day when they wake up in order to get out there and say, I'm open to change? How does that happen?
Well, a couple of ways. One is between the trigger and the action. If we really were honest about a lot of our actions, there is a belief that may no longer be true. So how do How do we look at that belief in an objective way? We have to be willing to be curious about what's the new data, what's the new information out there, what are the new experiences or circumstances that have changed that allow me to challenge that belief. And if I'm willing to reflect and recognize that maybe a belief that was true 10, 15 years ago
In Zacatecas.
may not be fully true today. There are aspects of the belief that are true, but maybe aspects that are no longer valid. Or there are opportunities for us to look at. So one is just for all behaviors. An analogy I give often on a stage is that of of a dog. My son has a dog that he got from the pet that saw me, and it triggered the fact that I looked like some former owner that beat the dog, so it barked.
When it sees you.
And when it sees me every time. So I wanted to change its belief about me. Belief, often when a dog barks, it's not actually angry. I had to change my belief. It's not angry at me. It's afraid. People bark when they're afraid. That's something else we have to understand oftentimes. So I had to change that dog's belief.
And people get afraid of change.
Yes.
They get afraid to say, what I'm doing today may not be the right way. My business may not be prospering in the way that I thought it would. And they don't always look for solutions. As you said earlier, they look for people or things to blame.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I finally got the dog to love me is I had to give it
food.
I had to give it new data. I had to give it a new experience.
Interesting.
You see me as a threat, but spend time with me. Help so you can understand, and I can understand you. And through that process of understanding, new experience, new information allows me then to change that belief that then changed the behavior. So that's what we're so good at to begin with. We want to appreciate and celebrate the good things.
Do we always? I see people in my life who are so highly competitive, and they have a saying in England called beggar thy neighbor. And I don't know if you know what that means, but my neighbor shows up with a nicer car than I have, then I'm immediately competitive or I'm negative about it. I'm not positive about it, that they must be doing something untoward in order to get that nicer car than me. How do you change that in your system? What do you do? What is a key? And I'm, it's not me so much. And I used to be that way a little bit. I'm so competitive that if you were better than me at something, it wasn't, how do I fix it, Michael? It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, this goes back to curiosity.
Okay.
So oftentimes we create statements when we should be asking questions. The statement, that person or why, it's the type of question. Instead of I am this, how might I be that? What could be going on? Why not me? Those are questions we can ask ourselves that causes us to now answer the question.
Embrace success. Embrace somebody else's success.
Right. If we want to challenge ourselves, we challenge ourselves by the same way we coach others, and that's through asking questions. In a self-reflective moment, ask yourself the question, why not me? Or why, if you have a question, why did this happen to another person's success? Why were they successful? Perhaps it was because they had hard work. Perhaps they
had a model that was different.
Perhaps there was something. So curiosity, which is a core part of the everything I've seen in the success of distributors, is the curiosity drives the questioning of why not? First off, why not me? And how did this work? And then you're then open to learning, and learning is the path towards success.
Mark Hughes had a really good saying that I've always liked. He called it high tech, high touch. We're always going to use distributors because we believe distributors create community, they create opportunity, they create customers. This is their business. This is the way the business was designed by Mark, and it's a hallmark of Herbalife. It's why we are a multi-billion-dollar company today, because of our distributors driving success. But in all that, there are distributors struggling today. In the United States, our business is off a little bit. We want to see it grow and improve. Transmitting good ideas is key to the game, but receiving those good ideas is the other side of the game. Talk to me a little bit about that, about transmission and reception.
Information isn't knowledge. Oftentimes it requires context for us to truly understand. So just because we get transmitted information, do we actually understand what is being said? So that means we have to have some context. We have to spend some time. And then once we understand, we have to then apply or act. And each of those processes requires a certain amount of openness and questioning.
Are these skills that we're talking about?
These are skills around the questioning skills. Mark Hughes, I was just amazed of the stories. Jerry Satanovich, she told me a story about when she went up and gave a talk and didn't do it very well. And she goes, "It's okay. I thought it was great. And these are all the wonderful things you did. The next one is going to be unbelievable. You just continue on." What he demonstrated in that short 2-minute interaction or less was what I see all the time, to your point, and that is our lack of confidence is a limiting factor. So if we hear something new, I even talked to a doctor about a new surgical technique. That's information that's evidence and science-based, but they don't embrace it. Why do they not? Is it not because they don't know anything? Do they fully understand the value? Or are they afraid that they won't be able to actually do the new technique or what it would do to their business? So in order to embrace that, guess what? They need to have confidence that they can accomplish the new task at hand, the new business, the new way of doing it. Confidence is at the core of the episode with Mark Hughes that I just shared. What did he do? He starts off with what we call appreciation, appreciative inquiry. You're amazing. You have done this before. You've been successful before. So this isn't your first rodeo. You can do this again. That appreciation. And then you shrink the change.
Let's talk about the discipline of that process, because in Herbalife, there's a tell, show, try, do philosophy. It's very basic to the company. We've got a few minutes left here. Address that. Address tell, show, try, do, and why that's such a powerful tool.
It's to the receiver and transmitter. The transmitter doesn't just tell. The transmitter shows. That creates understanding. The receiver's responsibility is now to try and then do it. They try, and by trying, they will do what is needed to grow into that next step and the next step. And what we need to do is celebrate the try. We celebrate when the child tries their first step. We celebrate the trying, and then they're doing it. So that's the beauty of, I think, the tell, show, try, do. It's a ownership on the transmitter that they've got to tell people, but they also have to show them in full understanding, so they fully understand it. And then the receiver has got to try it.
That gets back to training. Right. And you go back to Mark's original mindset in this company. It's very strong. It's very fundamental, very strong, very training-oriented. Mm-hmm. The one thing I'm trying to really impress upon that I've seen successful in Herbalife in my 20 years is having what we call a flow. He is bringing somebody in and setting them up for success almost right away. Not almost right away, but right away. Give them the tools, give them the process, give them the discipline. How can we get better at that? This is your final question. How can we as Herbalife help our distributors number one, and how can distributors help themselves get better? What tools should they be putting in?
Well, there are paths, which are talking about
your military experience, I'm sure, is going to come in.
Yeah. Well, one of the tools is to make sure that there's clarity. There's clarity on what is expected. So we can do that through technology too. Mm-hmm. Technology has a role to play to help the path, the flow. The flow is all about the path.
Right.
And like I said, part of change is first shrinking the change, creating the path, and then you celebrate because the feeling part of us has to be engaged, not just the head part of us. So both of that has to be involved. The feeling part will always overrule the head part. So you got to get them both through celebration of what is successful. So I guess to more simply answer, how do we get better at that? Is we ensure that the bright spots and the successes are celebrated and spread, and we simplify the flow so that where possible, it is done in a way that is very, very repeatable.
Wow. Helpful. Wonderful. It's great to see you again. So, folks, don't forget to subscribe and check out our ChatHLF playlist where we're going to release future episodes. Thank you, Dr. Kent.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Let's go. Herbalife.